beyond the state, and ultimately far beyond the Earth and our solar system. Before I talk about Vesto and Earl Slipher, I want to extend a big thanks to several individuals and organizations who made today possible. First of all, Russ, who's done so much for the community. Tom Borlick, historian of the Get-Link Observatory and Indiana Historical Society. And Tom, I haven't seen you yet. Are you in here? He's on his way. What an astronomer he is. Nancy Hart of the Clinton County Historical Society. Casey Pfeiffer of the Indiana Historical Bureau Division of the Indiana State Library. The city of Frankfort for making space for this plaque right in front of Old Stony. It's going to be a monument for generations to see. And of course, we want to thank the Slipher and Larimore families and for all you've done for the community and for welcoming us for this ceremony. The dedication, enthusiasm, and stewardship of all these individuals and organizations made the celebration possible, and they've ensured that the Slipher's legacy will continue to inspire for generations. So today we're here honoring Vesto Slipher and his brother Earl, two astronomers whose work helped shape our understanding of the cosmos, and we do so in the very place where the journey began, right here in Frankfort. Now, when you work at Lowell Observatory, like I have for more than 3 decades, you walk daily in the footsteps of some giants. And among those giants, the Slipher brothers stand tall. Their contributions weren't just important, they were foundational. They helped build the framework upon which modern astronomy now stands, and it's fitting that we celebrate them here in Indiana because the connection between Lowell Observatory and Indiana, particularly Indiana University, where the brothers graduated, is always been very strong. These are two institutions committed to discovery, education, and the belief that curiosity can change the world. That partnership continues today through shared research, shared history, and shared admiration for the Slipher's legacy. But before they were astronomers, before they were pioneers, before they were names in textbooks, Vesto and Earl were Frankfort kids. Kids who work the fields around here, breathed this air, and looked up at the same Indiana sky that we see tonight. Their story reminds us that world-changing discovery doesn't begin in distant laboratories or high-level technical laboratories. It begins in hometowns like this one, with curiosity, with encouragement, and with the courage to follow a question wherever it leads. Let's talk a little bit about Vesto, the older brother. If you've ever heard astronomers talk about the expanding universe, about galaxies racing away from us, about the very fabric of space stretching outward, then you've heard echoes of Vesto's work. In 1912, he pointed Lowell Observatory's 24-inch Clark telescope at the Andromeda Galaxy and measured something astonishing. This thing was actually moving, and it was moving really fast, much faster than anything anybody had ever measured in the heavens. And he didn't stop there. He kept measuring, kept cataloging, kept pushing the limits of what was possible with the technology of the day. By the time he was done, he had gathered the first evidence that the universe is expanding. Just think about that. A kid from Frankfort helped reveal that the universe itself is growing, evolving, and dynamic. His measurements became the bedrock of what would later become Hubble's law, and ultimately the concept of the Big Bang Theory. Without Vesto Slipher, our understanding of the cosmos would be profoundly incomplete. And then there's his brother. His work was just as transformative, though in a different way. Earl was a master of planetary photography. At a time when capturing clear images of planets was extraordinarily difficult, he produced the finest photographs of Mars the world had ever seen. His meticulous work helped scientists map the planet, understand its atmosphere, and prepare for future exploration. When NASA began planning missions to Mars, they relied on Earl's images. Images created decades earlier with patience, skill, and a relentless drive for precision. Earl even starred in one of television's first educational shows, Walt Disney's Mars and Beyond, which you can still watch today on Disney Channel, if you get that. Together, the Slipher brothers formed a remarkable team. Vesto revealed the vastness of the universe. Earl revealed the details of our planetary neighbor. One looked outward to the grand scale of cosmic motion. The other looked inward to the intricate features of world that has fascinated humans for centuries. Their contributions were different, but deeply complementary, two sides of the same coin, and unraveling the mysteries of the universe. And all this traces back to Frankfort. That's what makes today so meaningful, I think, in all of us sitting in here. This plaque isn't just a marker of history, it's a reminder of possibility. It tells every student who walks past it, every family who pauses to read it, every visitor who stops to learn that greatness can begin right here. Discovery can begin right here. And curiosity can begin right here. The Sliphers also teach us something else, that legacy is not measured only by what you accomplish, but by what you inspire. Their work inspired generations of astronomers, including many at Lowell Observatory and many at Indiana University. It inspired missions to Mars, studies of galaxies, and explorations of the universe and its earliest moments. And today it inspires this community, Frankfort, to celebrate its connection to the cosmos. As we dedicate this plaque, we honor not just the achievements of Vesto and Earl Slipher, but the spirit that fueled that achievement and their achievements, a spirit of curiosity, of perseverance, and of wonder. My personal hope is that this plaque becomes sort of a beacon, that it encourages young people to look up at the night sky with the same sense of possibilities the Slifers once did, that it reminds all of us that science is a human endeavor, rooted in real places, shaped by real people, and driven by the simple act of asking, what if? Frankfort gave the world two astronomers who helped change our understanding of the universe. Today we celebrate that gift, and we reaffirm that the next great discovery, the next Slipher, the next breakthrough, the next leap forward could come from anywhere, and it could come right from here. I'm done droning on now, but we have some other people that I really want to introduce because this is such a great community event. First of all, I'd like to introduce somebody that's familiar with probably just about everybody in this room, if not everybody, and that's Mayor Judy Sheets of Frankfort. Mayor Sheets, her leadership reflects the very spirit of Frankfort, its pride in its past, it's an investment in its future, and its commitment to celebrating the people who shape both. Mayor Judy Sheets has been a steadfast advocate for community heritage, ensuring that stories like these of the Slipher brothers continue to inspire new generations. Her dedication to strengthening Frankfort's identity, fostering civic engagement, and championing local history makes her the perfect voice to help us mark the moment. Please help me welcome Mayor Sheets.
Good morning. On behalf of the City of Frankfort and Clinton County, I want to welcome you to this dedication as we honor Vesto and Earl Slipher. What an achievement they have made. So many great things have happened because of them. I just asked Nancy Hart a few minutes ago, how long have we been talking about this? Because I remember her coming to my office and trying to figure out, she said 4 years. It has taken 4 years for us to make this happen, but it happened because of the many dedicated people that wanted to see that happen. So I want to thank each and every one of you that were part of this, not only from the beginning, but the finish of it. Russ, what would we do without you and all your dedication? Today we dedicate this plaque, but it also is going to be placed at Old Stony on the southwest corner of the lawn there. So that is going to be for people that come in on 28 as they visit Frankfort. They're going to be able to see that plaque. They can stop, they can read it, or people that live in our community. So we wanted to make sure that we had it somewhere that people could recognize it and really see what it is. I thank Nancy for all her help because I know you worked a lot with the family, with the Historical Society, the Indiana Historical Society, and we're able to get that done. Our Frankfort Street Department are going to be responsible for making sure that this gets put up at Old Stony. I'm not sure exactly, did you set a time with them, Nancy, or just sometime after this? In September. So be sure and look for it at Old Stony's lot. And I just want to thank everyone again for being here as we honor these astronomers. A few years ago at the Hot Dog Hall of Fame, we recognized them and honored them as well. And that's when I first became really familiar with it. And before that, I really didn't know that. I knew the Slipher family, and I went to school with some of them, but that's when I first realized. And I'm so proud to be a part of Frankfort and to know that we have people going out into the nation, to the world, to make Frankfort, Indiana known on the map. Thank you all again, and now I'll just let them go on with the event for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sheets. It's now my privilege to introduce a scientist whose career has helped illuminate some of its most fundamental questions about the stars themselves. Dr. Katie Pilichowski, the Daniel Kirkwood Chair in Astronomy at Indiana University, is internationally recognized by her pioneering work on the chemical composition of stars and the evolution of stellar populations. Her leadership has shaped major observatories, guided national research initiatives, and inspired generations of astronomers who now carry her influence into their own work. And it's appropriate she's here today because of Indiana University's long connection with Lowell Observatory. In addition to the Slipher brothers, several other eminent Indiana University alumni have worked at Lowell, some such as Wilbur Couchel, Carl Lampland, and Frank Edmondson. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Pilichowski.
It's so much fun to be here. Thank you all for coming, and it's just such a joyous and marvelous occasion. I want to start by thanking everybody who was involved in making this happen. So Mayor Judy, thank you so much for this. The Frankfort Board of Works, the Wabash County Astronomical Society, Camp Cullum, the observatory here, the Clinton County Historical Society, and Nancy Hart, thank you. Carl Slipher and the Slipher family, who we'll hear from shortly. The Indiana Astronomical Society, and Tom Borlick, who I especially want to thank. I don't know if he's here. He's not. Who helped me understand a lot of the connections and the history of Lowell and Indiana University. The state of Indiana for making this all come together, and Kevin from Lowell Observatory. This is just an amazing occasion for all of us. I'm grateful to share this time with all of you as well. It's an extraordinary, their contributions were an extraordinary change in astronomy and the perspective we have of the universe beginning in the early 20th century. From Indiana University, we're especially proud of the early careers of these famous astronomers. The brothers came from Clinton County here in the early part of the 20th century, 1901 for Vesto Slipher, and to begin their formal study of astronomy. Astronomy was immensely popular in the early 20th century, and I think it's probably been immensely popular ever since. But the country as a whole, and I've been looking into this because of the wonderful 250th anniversary of this country, a little bit more about the history and development of thought in astronomy and how it relates to the nation. But at that time period, there were major observatories being built all over the country. So Yerkes Observatory, Lick Observatory, Mount Wilson Observatory, Lowell Observatory out west, and at institutions of higher learning all over the country, and particularly all over the Midwest, telescopes were being built. It was just the thing to do if you were a university at the beginning of the 20th century. And at Indiana University, we built our first observatory in 1901, the Kirkwood Observatory, just before the Sliphers arrived. Our Department of Astronomy was founded in 1895 as the Department of Astronomy and Mechanics, and that sounds like an odd term for a Department of Mechanics, but that basically refers to the study of the orbits, the motions of things under gravity, stars, galaxies. We didn't know about galaxies back then, but planets, stars I mentioned, moons, asteroids, comets. It was mechanics, the study of those things, how they moved in the sky under gravity, that was the sort of the hallmark of the department at that time. There were two faculty members, John A. Miller, who originally came from the math department and was the first first member of the astronomy department, and Wilbur Cogsall, who had served as an assistant out at Lowell Observatory and then was hired to Indiana to be on the faculty. The courses offered at the time included current astronomy, stars and nebulae, the basic astronomy of the time, analytical mechanics, hydraulics, theoretical astronomy, and celestial mechanics, all taught by Professor Miller. Professor Cogsall, who had come from Lowell, was responsible for teaching the teacher's course, the non-math course for people just interested in astronomy or who might become teachers, and courses on practical astronomy and observational practice. So Vesto Slipher earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in 1901, his Master of Arts degree in 1903, and his PhD in 1909. I was surprised to find when I looked into it that his dissertation, which was published in the Astrophysical Journal in 1908, was on the topic of the spectrum of Mars. Now, at that time, people assumed that the planets were like Earth. There was life on perhaps even the moon, but they thought Mars was very much like the Earth. It had an atmosphere similar to ours. It was a challenge to try to measure the aspects of the Martian atmosphere, and what they did was they would use a visual spectrometer and sort of look at the spectrum of Mars, and then quickly compare to the spectrum of the moon and try to remember what did it look like and what kind of differences could they see. But Vesto was one of the very first people to use the new techniques of astrophotography, in particular spectroscopy photography, to look at the spectrum of Mars. And you can see online, and I'll show this afternoon in my talks, one of the spectra that he was able to obtain. But those spectra reveal the composition of the atmosphere of Mars. It was a really challenging thing to do, in particular because we have to look through our atmosphere in order to see the atmosphere of Mars. And that means we have to remove those spectral features that come from our Earth's atmosphere, particularly the very strong bands of oxygen. So he was able to use the spectroscopy with the 24-inch refractor at Lowell with new emulsions, photographic emulsions that had been developed that were more sensitive to the yellow and red portions of the spectrum, and also to enhance the sensitivity of those emulsions with some new techniques of astrophotography that he developed that made the emulsions more sensitive and more able to see very faint things. So when I read his dissertation, I was immensely impressed at the care, the detail, the effort, the thought that went into all of his observations, the care that he took to make sure he got the best possible data. That is a tradition that I think has established itself at Lowell and is carried on through the astronomical community ever since. This idea of how you think about making observations, making the best possible observations, using the resources that you have to get the very best science done. It's a challenge that we face even today as we go to fainter and fainter and fainter sources and look at greater and greater detail at those sources that we want to understand. He was able to understand very clearly that we could not really detect oxygen on Mars, primarily because the same features in the spectrum that we would see were the same ones we would see on Earth. And so they sort of swamped the spectrum of Mars, made it very difficult to determine whether there was oxygen there or not. But what he could see was the bands of water vapor, which he clearly identified in the spectrum of Mars. And so he was able to contribute, just in his thesis from Indiana University, something about the origin or the atmosphere of the planet Mars. Earl Carl Slipher completed his Bachelor of Arts degree in 1906 and his Master of Arts degree in 1908. And I think a highlight of his undergraduate experience at Indiana University was that he was one of 3 students in 1905 that accompanied the expedition of Professors Cogsall and Miller to Spain to observe an eclipse of the sun. And they had brought a variety of instruments and cameras in order to make detailed studies of the eclipse. Their particular scientific goals were to make photography of the structures of the solar corona, of perhaps the spectrum of some of the flares on the limb of the sun, and also to look for additional planets that orbited inside the orbit of Mercury. Like many eclipse stories, this one had that miraculous moment when it was cloudy all morning in preparation for the eclipse, and suddenly there was a break in the clouds and the sun would shine through, just as the eclipse came. So they had that experience in Spain, but unfortunately the sky wasn't quite sufficient to allow them to carry out most of the experiments they wished to make. It was still a little cloudy here, the corona was hard to see, but they did get some images of the corona at the eclipse. So that clearly was an important event for Earl Slipher, this experience of high stress photography, the issues, the preparation you have to make, the care you have to take in getting the perfect photographs. I think that probably carried forward into his future career in understanding how to be the best planetary photographer in the world, the best astrophotographer in the world. In 1909, he published the first of many papers describing his observations of Mars, describing the retreat of the South Pole ice cap and these strange features that were referred to as the canals on Mars. He really pioneered planetary photography, taking more than 100,000 images of Mars during his career. Just an incredible body of work. He also took amazing photographs of Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn as well, really setting the standard worldwide as the best astrophotographer of the solar system anywhere on Earth. His Martian photographs were critical when NASA put together or the Air Force put together that beautiful map of Mars that was used for planning the exploration of Mars by NASA in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. I note that both Slipher brothers relied on the connections that had been established by Professor Cogsall for their student research projects. Both of them did their research at Lowell and then came back and analyzed their results and published their results from Bloomington here in Indiana. That connection, the Hoosier connection to Lowell Observatory, dates back more than 100 years, and it continues to be a strong connection, one that is valued and has contributed so much to the education and the professional development of students at Indiana University, most of whom come from Indiana, I have to say, over this past century and more. So we're extremely grateful for this connection to Lowell Observatory, and it has such an amazing impact on American astronomy. The 20th century has been a remarkable time for American astronomy, due in no small part to VM and E.C. Slipher, as they're known amongst the astronomical community, and to Lowell Observatory. The early 20th century saw the birth of astrophysics, as all of a sudden we understood quantum mechanics, at least began to understand how to interpret and understand the spectra that Vesto Slipher had obtained of the Martian atmosphere, began to understand the spectra of stars. The construction of bigger and bigger telescopes in the early part of the 20th century led to dramatic improvement in the photographic technology. That also improved in development of bigger and better telescopes with better and finer grained emulsions all the way through. We learned about the evolution of stars through the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, the categorization of stars, and the beginnings of ability to understand how they form, how they live, and how they die. We learned about the compositions of stars, what they're made of. Originally, it was thought that the sun was made of iron and calcium, the minerals important on the Earth, oxygen. But it wasn't until the 1920s that we understood that the sun is primarily made of hydrogen. VM's spectroscopy of these weird spiral nebulae, published from 1914 to 1921, really overturned our view of the universe and showed us that these weird spiral nebulae were something very different, that their velocities were immensely large. They were moving rapidly away from the Milky Way, like Andromeda, but also many others. And this really and spinning, actually rotating, amazing observations with the technology that he had available. So we have learned a lot in the 20th century, and a lot of it began with Vesto and Melvin and Earl Slipher. Their devotion to excellence, their technical prowess in spectroscopy and astrophotography made them key players in the development of American astronomy all through the 20th century. They were the best at what they did, the best in the world, and the research continues to inspire all of us who continue to work in the field. It began here in Clinton County, and it is indeed fitting that their groundbreaking discoveries are recognized with this I can't wait to see historical marker. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Katie. There's one more speaker I want to introduce, but I'm going to make him wait for a minute because I wanted to introduce my colleague from Lowell Observatory, Lisa Betcher, who's waving her hand. Lisa and I both traveled from Arizona because this was really important for us to be here. I also want to see if Tom Borlick ever made it in. Oh, we're going to have to give him a hard time once he gets here because Tom really played a big role in initiating all this. So the last speaker I want to introduce is a member of the Slipher family whose story adds depth to the legacy we're celebrating today. Clark Slipher, grandnephew of Vesto and Earl Slipher, grew up in the same Frankfort environment that nurtured curiosity, discipline, and commitment to learning, values that shaped the remarkable achievements of his family. Clark continues to maintain strong ties to this community while also serving on the advisory board of Lowell Observatory, reflecting the sense of community, collaboration, and dedication that has defined the Slipher name and the Lattimore name for generations. His presence here today connects us to the roots of that legacy, reminding us that great scientific accomplishments are never isolated. They grow from families, from communities, and from the people who support and inspire one another. Clark, you're up.
Kevin?
Yep.
Tom Borlick just walked in.
Tom.
Tom Borlick just walked
Tom's waving his hand. Thank you.
Well, with all due respect to the doctor, we call them Uncle Vess and Uncle Earl. I am Clark Slipher, a great nephew of Vess and Earl Slipher. They were my grandfather's brother, Claude and Edward. There's lots of Slifers and Larimores here. Here's a picture of the brothers, by the way. You can't see it. You'll notice that there's a lot of males, one daughter in here. Our grandfather's here, he's the youngest. And that male tradition carried on to the next generation. So my dad's generation was all brothers, except one, Sylvia Slipher. She married somebody from the next farm over, Morris Larimore. That's why you hear the Slipher Larimores, because there's a lot of Larimores here, and they have been very supportive of Lowell Observatory and this effort. So I don't want to go without recognizing them. We're not direct descendants. Uncle Vess and Uncle Earl did have kids, of course. They lived out in Arizona. Not a lot of connection between the Indiana Slifers and the Arizona Slifers, but we've been in contact. Actually, hopefully, Monique and Les. Monique is Uncle Vess's granddaughter. Les Slipher is Uncle Earl's grandson. I hope they're listening today. So if you are, welcome and thank you. We hope that you get here someday to see this plaque and meet the rest of the family. First, I'd like to stop on Lowell Observatory. It is literally the only place that you can go where the Slipher name is pronounced correctly every time. And people actually want to meet you. It is such a, and I will say that a lot of the Slifers travel. We travel, Diane and I do. I can't tell how many times we've been in the country or out of the country, and somebody will be introduced to somebody, and they'll come up to me and say, Slipher, that's a funny name. You know, I was reading this article, and there's no way you could be related. It's like, how did you know about this? But they really, lots of different people who you would never expect, and maybe you wouldn't want to be approached by. We'll talk to you about them. Lost my notes here. So what does it mean to the Slipher family? Well, it's really cool being related to famous astronomers. That is really cool. But we have this feeling that what they did transcended pop culture. What they did was something that lasted longer, changed the face of astronomy. And it's not that we don't like pop culture. Who doesn't like a football player or a movie star? It's just that what we feel the Slipher brothers did is something long-lasting and is still going on. In fact, here's an example. A physics or an astronomy professor gave me this book. It's called A Student's Guide Through Great Physics Text. He teaches it to first-year astronomy students. In there, you start reading. I have been dutifully reading it. You have Aristotle, Ptolemy, Copernicus, Kepler, chapter 21, Einstein, chapter 21, V.M. Slipher. So, if you are a Slipher or a Larimore and you get drawn into a game of like 7 connections to Kevin Bacon and Einstein or Aristotle show up, it's a drop the mic moment. You've got it. This book covers you. I've got to say to Mayor Sheets as well, here's a little tip, that I think you have a defensible argument that the expansion of the universe originated in Frankfurt. So, of course, it's more about than being famous than their fame that is important. We had nothing to do with their fame or what they did or who they were. We had lucky genetics, and we're grateful for that. But there is something there that I would like to take out of this, and is that there is a certain Slipher values and ways of behaving that I think you see with them, you see with our grandfathers in the Slipher family that I'd like to think are a little deeper. Here's what I observe are those values: intelligence, wit, hard work, respect, generosity at times, modesty, and I see my brother and sister wink. How ironic that Clark brings up modesty. But maybe there was a what do you call it? Not dominant gene that was at work on me. But anyways, there is a modesty. The fact that you don't have a Hubble telescope, you don't have a Slipher telescope, you have a Hubble telescope, shows is one of the things, their modesty. I did want to bring up this article in the December 2024 Astronomy magazine. There's an article in here. There's an effort to rename the Hubble constant the Hubble Slipher constant. It's a wonderful article. I hope you read it because it gives how eventually Dr. Hubble came back and thanked, 20 years later, thanked him for these observations. Einstein was not a big fan of them and sort of visited the Grand Canyon without visiting him. I think that's true, but it's a really wonderful article about it. So there is an effort afoot to change that. I think the fact that so many people in Frankfurt didn't know about the Sliphers and what they did is another sign that we didn't talk about it much, and we certainly knew about it. But that's, I think, we're trying to right that wrong now. So thank you for all in participating with that. I'd say one last thing. There's 2 last things I'd like to talk about there, the values. One of them is love of the land. That so many of the people around, and the Slipher and Larimores are here, the farms still exist. Shannon Taylor still lives in the family farm where the Slifers grew up, and we're trying our best to make it and keep it going. That the Slifers brothers were big in real estate out in Arizona. I've been told that they bought and sold real estate. They had a beautiful ranch out there. I know that our Uncle Claude went out there in the 20s because of a condition that he needed to be in dry climate. And we have letters from him, and these letters back to our Aunt Artie talks about the business he was conducting on behalf of the Slipher brothers. And so it's just a wonderful capture of what was going on back in the day. And beautiful handwriting, by the way, you can see that. So it's just wonderful letters. So I believe that love of the land is still there and active today, and I thought it was worth noting. The last thing I really want to talk about is the value that was put on education. Uncle Earl, Uncle Vess, they obviously went to IU. Most of that generation, most of those brothers in that picture, they went to school. I know Ohio State, Purdue, a lot of them were farming, they all went to school. Unfortunately, the next generation suffered through the Depression and World War II. A lot of that next generation did not go. But the value carried on of education. So the generation of my generation, most of us did go to school. We went to Frankfort Public School, a lot of us. We went to state school, public state schools, not fancy schools, got practical educations. And sometimes you have a chip on my shoulder, but I'm guessing the other Slipher and Larimores feel this, is maybe we've been underestimated when we first met because of our rural Frankfort background. But I must say that our education and hard work help overcome that bias. So tremendously grateful for the Slipher brothers and that generation for getting us educated and instilling that in us. So thank you, Uncles Vess and Earl, your generation, for having the standard and values that inspire future generations of Slipers and Larimores. Slipers today still do think of you and admire you and your accomplishments. We hope you are as proud of us as we are of you. I would just like to close by thanking a number of people. There's just so many people that made this day. Nancy Hart, we've talked about the Wisconsin Family Star Party and Russ Kaspar, the whole thing, this Clinton County Historical Society, the Indiana Historical Society, the city of Frankfort. Thank you. It's your people have reached out to. They have been very. It was heartwarming, and so like they just said, the Slipher and Larimore family and the Lowell Observatory, Kevin and Lisa. They're always very supportive, and I say the whole Lowell family. I hope you get out there to visit someday. It is the most awesome spot to see. It's an inspiring place. There's a museum. There's active science going there. You can look through telescopes. It's a beautiful place. Just please go out there and take advantage of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Clark, and thanks for that great plug for the observatory.
Oh, it's okay.
You forgot that part. So I hope these talks have set the foundation for why we're here. This is such an important day, not just for Frankfort, but the world of astronomy and beyond. This is an inspiring story, and it's an honor for us to all be part of it. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Russ, I think, to coordinate the unveiling of the plaque.
Okay, if you want to come up here, this is the moment. Maybe two on this side, two on this side. Tom, can you join us? If you don't mind. As you make your way up here, very few people have seen this. This is going to be, again, on your flyer. It shows the picture here of where it will be mounted. We've got all the materials, and of course I do want to thank Nancy Hart and the mayor for making it ground zero for this plaque. Actually, it's a marker. We'll call it a marker. And Tom, you had a lot to do with this too, and we appreciate that. So everybody grab some of the red here, and we've got it bungee corded so it shouldn't fall over. 3, 2, 1. Thank you for coming. We're going to have a picture. We're going to try to fit as many people up here as we can, leaving the marker visible. We're going to just take a picture of it, and here we go. Also, the front gate will be open if the Larimores, I know you have a lunch date together, so you can go through the normally closed front gate. So there we go. And we do have name tags prepared for you. Some of you snuck in the front door instead of the back door, so we have your name tags. So we have ice cream for everybody. Let's see what we can do on the picture. Tall people in back, small people in front. Let's give it a shot. And then we have a 1 o'clock talk, so we got to keep moving. So come on up. Let's all get in this.